It's the history of the Tottenham.
Now look at the Premier League table this season and you might not be too concerned as a Tottenham fan, but look under the hood and things are not as they seem. The engine comes from a Nissan Micra from 2001, you left the gearbox out on the pavement, and the wheels on the car are from a Morrison's shopping trolley. Tottenham were 3-1 up against Southampton with just 15 minutes of the game to go, but a late collapse meant the final straw for manager Antonio Conte, whose rant called out the culture, the selfishness and the quality of the players, as well as the ownership of the club. But why exactly is Antonio Conte so upset, and why does he want to be sacked by Tottenham Hotspur?
Tottenham, Spurs.
Premier League. We're not talking about no Farmers League or your dad league.
It's fair to say March hasn't been the greatest month if you're a Tottenham fan. Out of the Champions League at the hands of Milan, an embarrassing defeat to Sheffield United in the FA Cup, followed by a loss to struggling Wolves and then a draw against bottom side Southampton, mean that Tottenham's stranglehold on the top four has weakened dramatically. They're just 2 points clear of Newcastle and 7 points clear of Liverpool, both who have 2 games in hand, and they are guaranteed to not be winning any silverware yet again. Now Antonio Conte has a great record as a manager, and when Tottenham hired the Italian, everyone thought that would finally be the end of the trophyless era at the club. Antonio came in and did a great job in his first 6 months, but then things have really fallen apart. I mean, this Southampton game would be the final straw for me. How is Theo Walcott terrorizing you aged 47? Antonio Conte has been in hospital for 2 weeks, and managing this Tottenham side is still the worst thing to happen to him this month. And as I said, this anger and aggression came to a head with Antonio Conte after Tottenham blew that 3-1 lead at St Mary's. Goals coming from Shea Adams, Theo Walcott, and of course James Ward-Prowse with a late penalty. The rant that followed, box office.
You try to find alibi and an excuse for the players. Okay, continue to do this, to find excuse for the players. For me, this is unacceptable, because this is the first time in my career to see a situation like this. Why? Bah, I don't know, because they are used here. They don't want to play under pressure. They don't want to play under stress. Tottenham story is this: 20 years that there is the owner and never won something. Until now, I tried to hide the situation, but now no, I'm really upset. And everybody has to take the responsibility, not only the club, not only the manager, the staff. Because it's time to change the situation if Tottenham wants to change. If they want to continue in this way, they can change manager, a lot of manager, but the situation cannot change.
I mean, this is scathing, man. Some of the stuff he was saying in this interview, whilst it's home truths, is stuff that you surely don't say when you're managing the squad of players you're talking about here. Giorgio Chiellini knew he'd seen this speech before watching at home. A later interview included even more explosive comments, calling Daniel Levy a bald nonce with 3 testicles and encouraging a Brazilian hitman to take out Richarlison. Now, genuinely, this makes this whole ordeal of the last month at Tottenham is so funny. On Twitter, Spurs are just like, oh, get well soon, Antonio. Hope you get better, bro. Meanwhile, he's just like, yeah, these lot of shit. You know that this man is stressed out. He was seen on a Ryanair flight just a few days later. This man has no fear. He knows that life can't get any worse after managing Tottenham. It doesn't matter if he has no legroom whatsoever. And his speech to the players when he returns back from that holiday is gonna be even more scathing.
This is not a team. I hate coming here. I'll be honest. I can't wait to mold my own team, because my team gonna have testicle fortitude. Balls!
And you do have to have some sympathy with Antonio, because this is ultimately a squad full of players that aren't used to winning. You know, there's a reason why Tottenham are known for bottling things on a regular basis. Whilst there's a whole heap of ability in the starting 11, there's also a lot of players that you cannot rely upon for a whole season without individual errors. You look back at a lot of the goals that Spurs have conceded this season, individual errors are a massive problem for them. If you're playing Clement Longley and Eric Dyer in the same defense as a 3, you're conceding 3 goals. Speaking of Eric Dyer, he was videoed with a Tottenham fan laughing and joking about the fact that they don't win trophies.
And you guys never win anything, right? No.
I mean, like, bro, what? Being, to all intents and purposes, a failure is not funny in your craft. But again, I think that just really highlights the mentality, because if you think about Tottenham, you think of Eric Dyer as one of the most passionate players. But if he's creasing at the fact that they don't win anything, like, that is the mentality of people who don't win anything. Serial losers, and I hate to be that harsh. He's gonna have a hard job explaining that to his PR team.
They got your ass on camera.
Niggas ain't got me on no fucking camera.
This is the clearest video I've ever seen. This is the most HD shit ever.
Obviously, it's by no means just Eric. There's a lot of players in that squad that have underperformed this season. Heung-min Son's not been his usual self this season. I think Hugo Lloris has once again been culpable for a lot of goals that Tottenham have conceded. And other Tottenham coaches at the club are questioning whether Richarlison's even Brazilian.
It's clear to me that you've got a forged passport.
It's not stressing owner Daniel Levy though, because he's too preoccupied with other things at the moment. But is Antonio Conte right to call out the management at Spurs, to call out the owners, and to call out the players, of course, as well? Because this is one hell of a statement, all right? This isn't just coming out and being like, oh, I need more money to compete. Or even what he was saying before, really, like the top four being a trophy for Spurs. That, to be honest with you, the way this season is going is a realistic goal. But calling out the character of your players, saying that they are used to failure, is crazy. I don't actually think I've seen a rant from a manager that is so scathing about his own players. And I've seen a big split opinion on this topic. A lot of Tottenham fans are saying this can't run. You can't talk about your players like this. And also calling out the fact that he, at the end of the day, is the manager of the football club. And if you question some of the players' character, then don't keep playing them. Antonio Conte doesn't have a plan B. You know, Danjuma signed in the... he might actually have signed for Everton. I haven't seen him since he joined Spurs. Jed Spence has been watched by Kim Kardashian before Tottenham fans have got a chance to see him. Whilst I do agree with Conte about the players, it does seem like a bit of a scapegoat, get out of jail free card situation. Because if you just slap all the blame onto the players not being winners, you know, it takes the blame away from you. I do think he is very fearful of his reputation dropping massively after this job. So if he comes out towards the end and just goes, yeah, the players are useless, yeah, the owner's terrible, then it shifts some of the blame away from him. And I do think he is doing some deflection tactics, 100%. However, in terms of talking about the owner, Tottenham fans, please don't get distracted about the fact that your manager's ranting in a press conference. You might not agree with the delivery, but what he's saying is facts. Manager after manager after manager, and Tottenham still haven't won anything for years. Tottenham get into Europe every single year without fail. How do you not win anything in that time period? How do you not make the most of that precipice in time where Pochettino takes them to the Champions League final? Why do you not invest after that? This is an ownership that sacked Jose Mourinho, a serial winner, 6 days before a cup final, and replaced him with Ryan Mason. No offense to Ryan Mason, but he was a caretaker manager. That A, shows they had no plan to replace Jose Mourinho properly, and B, just shows a lack of intelligence. I know the form under Jose Mourinho was terrible at that point, completely understand, but sacking a guy known for winning trophies is never a good idea before you actually have a chance to win one for once. And the funny thing is, Harry Kane was interviewed recently, I don't know how recently, but he basically said a lot of this stuff that Antonio Conte said, but in a nicer way, talking about how he found life at Tottenham under Jose Mourinho, saying that he actually had a really good bond with Jose, and he felt that they had very similar morals, very similar personalities in terms of sacrificing everything to win, but there weren't enough leaders, there weren't enough characters in the dressing room at the time to be able to deal with Jose's demands. But where do they go from here? I mean, Daniel Levy has some sort of an idea. Antonio, if you thought playing it to the left, like to the left, you're still thinking about the Beyonce tickets, aren't you? Oh my God, I actually can't wait. For me, there's got to be a do or die meeting between Conte and the players. But these are a group of unserious players, and I don't know how that's gonna go. You know, Antonio's not gonna be too pleased when Hugo Lloris brings a PowerPoint presentation explaining the fact that their Audi Cup victory does count as silverware.
Can you tell me who wrote that phrase?
I would need to check.
So you didn't write that?
I could have written that. It's possible that I wrote that.
I'd rather you didn't lie about this.
Yeah, I mean, it's highly likely that I wrote that.
What percentage likely?
Okay, yeah.
Emerson will just be distracted at the back of the room whilst this imperative meeting is going on. Eric Dyer won't be amused when he sees Daniel Levy laughing and joking at the top of the stairs. Christian Romero isn't making it to the end of that meeting with his disciplinary record. Might as well escort him out the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium right now when he gets red carded 12 minutes in. Meanwhile, Pierre Højbjerg is not letting Harry Kane go and will be confronting the Englishman when he sees that he's booked a golf day with Gary Neville for next week.
Don't fucking try any of that shit, because I've been here before
I'm a professional. This is what I do.
Overall, Antonio Conte, whilst the delivery is a little bit questionable, is that big statement that I think a lot of clubs need sometimes from a brave individual. Do I think Antonio Conte has been good managerially this season? No. And I think him shifting the blame onto his players is actually kind of the opposite of brave and a little bit weak-minded, to be honest with you. He has to take responsibility for the coaching and the players that he's actually choosing to go out onto the pitch. The football's been kind of dull. He's not got the best out of some of his best players. And overall, that first 6 months was definitely a honeymoon period. But the things that he's saying are correct. And I know Tottenham fans maybe don't necessarily want to hear it, but what he's saying about the board, and to be honest, about the character of the players too, in fairness, is correct. Mauricio Pochettino complained about the ownership of Spurs before he was sacked. And a lot of the same problems are still very evident today. I saw a tweet from a Tottenham fan actually recently, and it was saying that Davinson Sanchez outlasting Mauricio Pochettino, Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte sums up Tottenham as a club perfectly. If none of those three can win you a trophy and you still employ Davinson Sanchez, then there is where the problem lies. Some of these players have been stealing a living at Spurs, and yet they still are persisted with. We'll have to wait and see where everything goes from here, but for me, it's a sign that Conte wants to be sacked. I think he's genuinely had enough of managing there. He knows that it's affecting his reputation, and he knows that he actually can't win things with this team. So by forcing Daniel Levy's hand, by basically abusing his team, there's no choice really but to sack him. But what do you make of this entire situation? Let me know down in the comment section below. Is Antonio Conte right to make those comments about his squad and about Daniel Levy? If you enjoyed this one though, feel free to slap a like on the video, and of course subscribe if you are new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at the official FNG on Twitter and on Insta. It's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.